What are you actually focusing on? Focus is a big deal nowadays, everyone. Until you're dead and you go to heaven, you still have the ability to fulfill that dream. Hi, everyone. I'm Crystal McDaniel, and this is The Naked Singer. It is the month of April, and I am so happy that spring is here. The flowers are blooming. The dogwoods are coming out. That's always my favorite. It was my mama's favorite, too. I just absolutely love seeing the flowers bloom. I'm sorry for you guys who suffer with seasonal allergies. I know that that's not necessarily a good thing and the pollen count goes out, but it's still very beautiful. And I hope that everyone is taking time to go out and enjoy the sunshine and see the beauty that is out there. My husband and I took a long walk this morning. We did 4.65 miles. I am working on walking 100 miles in the month of April. So we walked 4.6 today, and we took two of our dogs out. We have four, and we took two of our dogs out, and one of them, we took a frisbee and let him just play and play and play, and now they are completely wiped out, laying down asleep. That's always a good thing. A tired dog is a good dog. That's what I've always heard. Okay, so in the month of April, we are going to be discussing the subject of head games. And when I say head games, I'm talking about the negative thoughts that roll over and over and over in our heads. And we want to discuss that. So I'm just going to dive right into that. When I was in middle school, high school, my 20s, in college, 30s, I really struggled a lot with the negative thoughts that were in my head. I've had a lot of trauma in my life. I'm not going to go deep into that right now, but I had a lot of trauma in my life, and that kept me thinking about all of these negative things all the time. So I really had to work on getting myself to focus on something else. I've always had hormonal issues, really bad hormonal issues. Even when I was pregnant with my three children, I was in ICU a good bit of the time. It was very, very difficult, and that's because of all the different hormonal issues that I have. So a while later, I found out that I had PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So literally half a month I would be okay, and the other half of the month I would not. So I was losing about 26 weeks of the year being really upset and miserable and thinking on all of these negative things. I went to the doctor when we realized that it was cyclical for me, or that at least that issue was cyclical for me. And we went to the doctor, and I got some good medication for that, and that helped tremendously, because PMD can be a real monster that you have to wrestle. So if you're noticing that those things are cyclical for you, then maybe that's something that you should check in with your doctor about. But that wasn't my only issue. I just want to let you know that that was just one of layer on top of layer on top of layer. So for years and years, I constantly looked at the negative, just constantly looked at the negative. And my voice teacher, Neil Seamer, he said to me, he said, Crystal, you know, we all understand you have a big pile of manure in your backyard. It just doesn't mean that you have to stand there and that's the only window that you can look out of. And I had to really think long and hard about what he said about that. And I really meditated on it, and I started changing the way I think. He's also the one that pointed me in the direction of my getting a real trauma therapist, a really good trauma therapist, which I have. And she has helped me unpack the suitcase of all of this trauma, because if I did a timeline for you, you would see event after event after event after event after event after event. And it has been really quite tremendous. So she helped me to be able to do that. But if Neil had not mentioned that trauma therapist to me, I would have never thought about going to one. I didn't really think about it being trauma as much as just the way my life rolled. I just felt like all these bad things kept happening, and I just had to deal with it. And you know what? I don't. I mean, I do have to face the problems that I have had, but I don't have to have it just in control of my life and making me focus on that and focus on that and focus on that and focus on that. So I have really worked hard to move from staring out the window at this huge pile of trauma manure to moving to another side and seeing the beauty that is outside the window. And I'm saying all of this because, this is the Naked Singer. And so I want to be very, very transparent about the things that I have gone through so that you understand where I'm coming from. So when I say that we're going to discuss these things and you're capable of overcoming them, I absolutely have. I continue to. And it's absolutely true that you do not have to live with those dark voices in your head. And I know so many of us struggle with it. I really understand that. It drove me to a part where I was suicidal at one point. So I do get it that the voices in your head can really, really drive you insane. And I particularly thought, is this as good as it gets? Is this the way my life is going to be? And I'm here to tell you right now, no, it is not the way my life has to be lived. It isn't. But that's because I recognize that I could reach out and get help and aid for myself. I do take an antidepressant. The antidepressant that I take, though, it helps me with these negative thoughts, and it helps me keep all of these things under control. However, I have vestibular migraines. And so because I have these vestibular migraines, the same medication that I can take for the anxiety and depression and the voices in my head, I can take for my vestibular migraines. Because literally my anxiety got so high and the stress level got so high at one point that my nervous system just flipped out. And I started getting terrible cramps, just debilitating cramps. And then I started getting very, very dizzy and feeling very, very sick. This went on for about a year because it started around March of 2019. And then I finally was able to get in with a specialist in the month of August 2020. But in between there, I was fatigued. I was hurting in my lower back. There were times that I couldn't move my hands and my arms. I was dizzy constantly nauseated, constantly dizzy. It just kept interfering and kept interfering. I could close my eyes and it felt like I could sleep for about 18 hours. The fatigue was so great. This just went on and on and on. And I kept going on this journey of what in the world is wrong with me. So I finally found out that I did have arthritis. So that was what was going on with my hip and my shoulder and my back and my lower back. And a lot of it had accumulated, a significant amount accumulated in my lower spine. So that's one of the reasons I'm having trouble with walking and things. But the other part of it was that I had to go and start delving into what the inner ear was doing and do all these tests. So a friend of mine who happens to be a person that is in administration with Massachusetts General Hospital, Jim Luisi, he told me, come up here to Massachusetts, to Mass General, and we will help you, because we are the best eye and ear clinic in the world, and we're going to help you. Now, that clinic just happens to be the same place that my father went in the 60s to have his eye surgery. So it was very interesting that I ended up there. So that was sort of nostalgic for me. Not that I was really in memory of all of the stuff, because I wasn't born yet when Daddy went through that. But at the exact same time, it was sort of interesting that we both ended up there. And I've got a great otoneurologist there. His name is Dr. Lewis, and he helps me with my migraines and my inner ear. And we sort of think that the nervous system shorted out something between the brain and the inner ear. So half of my left inner ear no longer functions. and thus the dizziness. So one drives the other. If my anxiety is higher, then I get dizzier. On rainy days, I get dizzier. It really causes a problem. Migraines don't have to have pain to them. They can be pain free or they can have pain, and mine just sort of vary, but the dizzy is always the common factor. So there's just days that I'm really dizzy, but I deal with it. I meditate, I think about good things, I journal, I take the emergency meds that I have to take when I have a really bad migraine episode. If I go outside or if it's raining, I have to wear sunglasses and a hat because the light stimulates and overstimulates me. I have a lot of trouble in the grocery store going up and down aisles. That's just too much for me. It's too much stimulation. So if you see me out and about and I've got on sunglasses and a hat, I am not trying to be a movie star. I am just trying not to be dizzy. So you can say hi. It's okay. I'm not trying to hide. Anyway, those things had gone on, and there were other things, of course, as well. But as those things went on, I was just more and more, why is this happening? And I got more and more negative. And of course, my therapist has helped me with that. And since we've got the right combinations of everything now, oh, and the migraines also cause me convulsions. That's another thing. But since we've got the right combination now, yeah, my outlook and my mood and the way I think is a whole lot better. So now that brings us to, what can you do? What can you do? And how does all of what I just told you help me? Not help me, help you. How does all that I just said help you? Well, after a lifetime of experience with negative thoughts, these are the things that I know. Thinking about those negative thoughts and not doing anything about them is not going to help. It is not okay to just sit there and think negative thoughts. That voice in your head that is telling you those things, that is not you. So you have to learn to separate the negative voices from yourself. I like to call them voice number 1 and voice number 2. Okay? Voice number 1 is very judgmental and very negative and will always make you tense and will tell you all the negative things. Voice number 2 always likes to play and relax. It's more who you are. So it's better to follow voice number 2 than voice number 1. And if you can decide to separate yourself that way and understand that those voices are not you, it doesn't matter if they're in your head, they aren't you. We all have them. The voices just go and go and go, and they talk and they chatter and they tell us, you're no good. You'll never be enough. You'll never be able to make it. You don't have what it takes. You can't start that business. You can't be on Broadway. You're not going to get with a record label. You are never, ever, ever going to get out and do anything. You'll never see the world the way you dreamed you would. All of those things. Those are not truths. So when it comes right down to it, once you recognize that those voices are not true and that is not what God says about us, especially since he says we're overcomers and we're more than conquerors. So once you understand that being a child of God doesn't mean that you're going to have those voices. I mean, God, who loves us, and we are his child, just like I'm the mother of Jacob, Rachel, and Rosemary, I'm not going to tell them bad things because I'm their mother and I love them and I want good things for them. Well, that's the way God is for us. So, once you decide what you're going to believe, it starts getting a little bit better. If you want to believe those negative voices, and you want to believe that's actually you, then you will. And nothing I can say will convince you differently. But if you want to change it, and you want to do something different, what I believe is true about me is I am intelligent, I am talented, I am loved, I am enough, I am not abandoned, I am not powerless. I can do these things. I can do these things because God says so. And he's going to help me. Of course, I believe that. That's something that I truly believe, but also I believe that he made me to be able to do those things. I wouldn't be podcasting right now if I didn't know I was supposed to and didn't believe I was supposed to put this out there and put what I have been through out there. You know, it was a very hard decision for me to make to go public and to start talking and saying things about this because, you know, a lot of people think that I am extroverted, and the bottom line is I'm not. In fact, I just took a personality test. My trauma therapist had me take the Myers-Briggs, and it's the second time that I've taken it, but this time, because I have already shuffled through a lot of things and sifted through a lot of things, we wanted to see what the result actually was. And literally, my personality starts out with an I, which is for introvert. Yes, I'm an introvert. I prefer to stay here and stay quiet and write. I would rather swim in my swimming pool in the backyard and just go for a walk and be quiet. I would rather create and clean than I had to go out to a party. And if I go out to a party, after a while, I just get exhausted because I have to make sure that I put myself in a social situation and I actually talk to people and are genuinely interested in what they have to say and in them. And for me, that expends a lot of energy. Some people feed off of it. I'm not one of them. And I know for people that know me but aren't in my real inner circle, and my real inner circle is actually very small. I don't have tons and tons and tons of friends that are in my inner circle. It's hard to get into my inner circle. So, you know, because of the trauma, I don't trust a lot of people. So I put my trust in God and in the few people that have remained loyal and steadfast and non-judgmental to me. And I think that's the way we all need to be, because in the end, I was told as a child that if you have good friends, you can count them on one hand. The number that you will have, the people that will be really loyal. So that's pretty much what I have, and I depend on that. So, you know, when I think about it, the negative voices that have been there, they really have wreaked havoc on my life. So I want you to know that it has everything to do with what you believe. And I had to make the decision after months of therapy and peeling away things and understanding that my reactions were coming from triggers that I was having from past traumas. And once I understood that, I realized that you know what? The type of person that I am is who I want to be. I want to be a kind person. I want to show love and mercy. I want to be genuine with people. I want to love people. I want to be forgiving. I want to be generous. Just a whole list of things. And I set about being that person, because that's what I want in my life. I want that joy. I want that love. I want that forgiveness. I want that kindness. And I want to be able to spread it all around. So I had to decide. I had to make a decision to believe the voices in my head that say these things, or to believe what is real. And that was one of the first steps. I was like, once I realized that, I was like, well, no, I'm not that. I'm this, and this is what I want to be. So really, deciding what you want to believe about yourself and what you do believe about yourself is the first thing. Now, it's work. I'm not going to lie. It is work to stop listening to the negative voices. Now, I'm a big writer, so I journal, and I journal a lot. I have journal on top of journal on top of journal on top of journal because I refuse to allow the things to just continue to roll around in my head so that I keep them. So I talk to God in my journal. So those are prayer journals, and I journal all of my prayers. I also journal all of my ideas because I think that they're legitimate. Some of them I'm going to use, some of them I don't. I'm not going to. And that's okay. Just because I have an idea doesn't mean that all of them have to be done. Sometimes those ideas are for somebody else to do. They're not all for me, but I do write them down. And I continue just to write and write and write. So all of this stuff doesn't just stay in my head, because that's the worst place it can stay. And I want to be in a good mood. I want to be in a good mood. My father was a very moody person, and you never knew what mood he was going to be in. And I want my family to know what mood I'm going to be in. And I want to be able to wake up and say, "Good morning. Good morning. Did you sleep well?" I want to be able to do that. So because I want to be able to do that, I have made that my goal. Morning used to be my worst time. And honestly, I still struggle with morning, but I'm working at it. I am working on waking up and going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up. And I got that idea from the speaker Mel Robbins, because she has a book called The 5-Second Rule. And that's what she does. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then she goes and makes a decision. So I'm using that as a catapult to help me to get into the positive, because there are things that I want to get done, and I can't get done if I'm focused on the negative. And that brings us to the next point in it. So once you get past what you believe, I think you have to think about what you're focusing on. What are you actually focusing on? Focus is a big deal nowadays, everyone, because everybody has gotten so used to this fast food way of doing anything. So, it's like you go to the drive-through and then you give your order, and, in a minute or two, you go up and they hand it to you out the window. And there you go. And we think that's the way everything has to be. And we can click on Netflix. We don't like that. We can click on something else. And so our brain just goes this way and that way and this way and that way. And then some of us have to be busy all the time, because if you're not busy, let's face it, I'm going to just tell the truth. If you're not busy, you hear the negative voices. So you're constantly trying to do something or be entertained or watch something or go somewhere. You're constantly doing that because you're running from facing yourself. And if you want the negative voices to stop, you have to stop for a moment, be in stillness, listen to the core of your heart and your own breathing, and then decide what you believe and focus on that. Because no matter what, running around doing things and keeping yourself busy still does not stop the negative voices, because you're going to hear them in the middle of the night. And then, because what else are you going to hear? And then you're going to have trouble sleeping. I know this. If I'm describing you, it's because it's happened to me. That's the whole thing. It happened. I struggled with insomnia for years and years and years. And now I can sleep. Sometimes in the middle of the night, if I wake up and I have any type of struggle, I just simply recite Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And if I have to, I'll say over and over again, I shall not want. I shall not want, because the Lord is my shepherd. And that literally calms me down. And then, of course, I finish the entire verse. And sometimes before I even get finished, I'm back to sleep again in peace because I'm not going to tolerate the negativity anymore. Nobody is dragging me back down that road. I'm out of the pit of it and I'm not going back. So if you don't want to go back, you can use some of these tips because I promise they are going to help you. So work on your focus and think about what you're focusing on. I have students come into my studio every single day, and bless their hearts, they really have trouble focusing on the work in front of them because they're so busy hearing the negative voices in their heads. And that's listening to voice one. You're never going to sing right. You can't do this technique. You can't open your throat. You can't drop for your breathing. You're never going to get it, and it's never going to be good enough. And even though you've sung in front of people before, because you can't do this, it will never be great. That's not true. That's just not true. You add things a little at a time. And all of that is a focus problem because instead of focus on what they're there for, they're focused on all the negative, and then they're freaking out instead of just having fun singing. And if that sounds familiar to you, you don't have to be a singer. You can just be in a situation where you're really nervous or you're really uncomfortable, or you may really want to do something and you've got this really great idea and you want to do it. But the negative voices in your head are going, you're going to fail. It's going to be embarrassing. Everybody's going to tell you it's impossible. All of those things, that's voice one. That is not you. You've come up with this brilliant idea. It's something you've dreamed of for a long time. There is no reason for you not to get up and have fun and do it. There is no reason whatsoever because voice one is keeping you from fulfilling what you're supposed to do on this earth. And who wants to live that way? Who wants to look back on their life and regret? Nobody. Nobody wants to look back on their life and regret. That's something that I have said since I was a little girl. When I'm 80 years old and I'm sitting around, if I ever have grandchildren, and I'm not saying that, Rachel, Rosemary, and Jacob, I am not saying that because I want grandchildren anytime soon. I'm just saying that I have thought, if I look at the generations that are coming after me, do I want to say, well, I didn't do this because, and then regret that I didn't do it? What type of legacy do I want to leave to those that come behind me? I can promise you, I want to leave one of goodness and kindness and having courage to jump in there and do what I've dreamed about doing. I've been really privileged because I've been able to do what I've done. I get to sing every day. I get to work at home. I have formed that for myself. Even in my darkest times, I still did the work. I faced the fear and I did it anyway. The reason I even have this podcast and have my studio is because Rachel and Rosemary Jacob were very sick and they were in and out of doctor's offices and they were in and out of hospitals, and I needed to be able to stay home with my children. And so I started the studio, and it took a long time, but I have a successful studio, and I'm thankful because every day I get to work with these really great people, these really talented singers, and I get to sing myself. And then I go and do shows, and I think that is absolutely phenomenal. And now I have this podcast. One day I just thought this bell went off, and it felt like a magnet pulling me, and I knew I had to do a podcast. So I got the equipment, and I did some tutorials, and my son is a podcaster, so he started teaching me, and boom, 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 here I am. Here I am doing podcasts, and I think this is number 7, so I've been doing it almost 2 months. I just took the leap. So you've got to think about what you're focusing on. If your focus is in all the stuff that's around you, then you're going to hear the negative voices. If you're focused on doing what you want to do, what you enjoy, and what you dream of, if you focus in that direction and keep yourself focused, and even if you only do 5 minutes a day, 5 minutes, you're going to get somewhere over time. You're going to get somewhere. And that is a big deal, people. That's a big deal. Don't sell yourself short. Focus. And if you notice that your focus is focusing on the negative, gently bring your mind back over to something positive. If it's hard to do that, go clean out your closet. If you don't want to clean out your closet, clean out your refrigerator. If you don't want to clean out your refrigerator, vacuum your floor. Clean out your garage. We all have stuff. Start cleaning it out. Every single time you walk by that pile or that closet and you think, oh, I got to get to that. Well, get to it. Because then you'll know that you can accomplish something. You can accomplish something and you'll start building confidence. Confidence happens with experience. And if you don't start putting effort in to what you want and into your focus, then you're not going to gain that confidence because you're not going to have experience. And you have not thrown your dreams down the toilet. I'm just here to tell you that in the Bible, Abraham was 99 years old before he had his son. He dreamed his whole life about having his son. And then he and Sarah were 99 before that dream ever came true. If you are breathing and you are alive and your heart is still beating, you have a chance and a choice to get your dream and make it come true. And that's just the truth. I am not telling you a lie. I am incapable of BS. And you can ask anybody that knows me or is close to me. I just don't have that ability. I think it's nonsense and a waste of time. So I'm here to tell you that you can reach your dream. And I'm not talking about Walt Disney, make all the dreams come true stuff, because yes, that happened for Walt Disney. It can happen for all of us. It's just there's got to be one thing that you do, and that's putting the effort towards it. The focus has to be on what you want and what deep down inside of you believe about yourself. You have not sold yourself short. Not yet. Again, until you're dead and you go to heaven, you still have the ability to fulfill that dream. You still have that ability. As for me, I'm not going to stop until I get to the dream that I want to have. Now, there's not just one. I'm going to tell you that once I get to one goal, I have another one, and I have another one, and I have another one, and I keep marching on because that's the way it is until God calls me home. Okay, so I've given you two things, and in closing today, I want to just share a thought. Okay, and I know I've been on my soapbox today, but this is one of those things that it just gets me deep down inside, and I just feel so such a pull to encourage you and to tell you that I believe in you and I love you and I want to see the best things happen for you, which means you've got to stop focusing on just yourself. You've got to start turning outward to what God has for you, outward to what is the energy and the vibration that you can bring into this world at a higher level than you're doing right now. You can do that. So in closing, I want to tell you something. Stop worrying and stop worrying about what everybody's going to think. You don't need anyone's approval. You've got God's and you've got yours. And if you ask me, you've got mine too. I'm on your side. So know that you don't need anybody's approval. I wasted years hoping somebody would approve and open a door for me. And then I had to learn I had to believe in me and know what I believe about me. And then I had to know that I was already approved of. I already had approval. I did not ask anyone if they approved of me doing a podcast. I just said, hey, I'm going to do a podcast because I already knew deep down that it was already approved of. So here I am. Don't wait on somebody's approval. Don't get everybody's opinion. You don't need it. You do not need it. Now, I'm going to tell you something that my husband says about opinions. And it's not the most polite thing to say, but this is what he says. He says that opinions are like rear ends. Everybody's got one, and most of them smell. Well, there you go. I know that was a little gross, but it's the truth. And you don't need everybody's opinion. You need your approval. And if you think it's a good idea, and you know that it's something that you feel called to do, that you feel that you need to do, then you need to do it. You need to do it. And you need to keep going and keep going and keep going. Don't give it 6 months and say, well, I tried. No, there is no try. There is only do. There is only do. That's the way it is. Trying gives you a way to make an excuse. There is no try. Yes, I know. I sound like Yoda from Star Wars, but we always think that that character is wise. So make sure that you understand that without doing, it's nothing. Thinking about it in your mind is not going to get you to where you want to go. Listening to that voice, listening to voice number 1 is never going to get you where you want to go. You must know where you want to go and then start doing the steps to get there. Stop grieving over it. Stop worrying about it. Stop overthinking it. Stop wondering what everybody thinks. Stop thinking about the embarrassment. Just do it. Please, please, please. Just do it. You'll be happy that you did. Okay, remember that this podcast drops tomorrow, and it's on all those social media. It's on all those podcast channels like Spotify, Amazon Music, Alexa. Yeah, you can say, hey, Alexa, play it and play The Naked Singer, and she will. All of those things. It's on all of those networks. I'm still waiting for iTunes. iTunes takes forever. So those are the good things that I have for you today. There will be more. I'm going to have a guest on this month. I cannot wait for that to happen. I had such a wonderful time today encouraging you. Oh my gosh, this is just my thing. And I love doing this so much. And I want you to know that I love you and I'm praying for you. And I want all the good blessings in the world for you. So there you go. I'm Crystal McDaniel, and this is The Naked Singer.